千里之行，始于足下。A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. I would like to extend a warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we all ready ourselves for the sacred process in the Tao with one another. Let me point out that the first column you see on the left is going to be about the meditative state that we're going to fill in. Now, the meditative state has an effect on Tao cultivation, which in turn has an effect on life applications, living your life day to day. So the Chinese that you see there, those are the three main points of the inward directed practice. The first one there is in holding the soul and embracing oneness. Can one be steadfast without strain? Let's apply that to the meditative state. So the idea is that you must gather your scattered thoughts into the oneness of your mind. Focus on the center of your being and hold steady. So this makes it quite clear. Those that have practiced meditation recognize this right away. This is how we go into the meditative state. And the next one is also applicable to that. The next one says in the Chinese, in concentrating the energy and reaching relaxation, can one be like an infant? So applying that to meditation, it means direct your attention to the flow of energy within. Use breathing technique to attain a state of relaxed concentration. So this is also familiar to people who have done meditation. It's step 1 and step 2 we're talking about. Step 3 continues that trend. Step 3 in Chinese says in cleaning away the worldly view. Can one be without imperfections? Can you perfectly be without the worldly or the mundane or the materialistic views? So that again is exactly what you and I would do if we were to meditate. Let worldly concerns be washed away from your thoughts, leaving only the perfection of serenity. It is no accident that the 3 points map to Tao cultivation. This is basically pointing out that the spiritual side of you is inextricably linked to the mental side of you, or the spirit maps to the mind. And if you prefer, the soul directly connected to the mind or your thoughts. So for Tao cultivation, let's talk about the oneness. Embrace the oneness of the Tao as your guiding principle. Stay on the path and avoid straying into what may appear to be shortcuts. When we explore spirituality, there's all kinds of approaches, methods, paths. There are many paths out there. Some make lavish promises, like a shortcut to enlightenment. Lao Tzu specifically speaks against this, saying that they only appear to be shortcuts, they are actually illusory. There are no true shortcuts in life, but the Tao itself is a plain, broad, and straight avenue. It's easy to walk. So we want to be careful about that. Then, when it comes to the next one, being like an infant, that applies to Tao cultivation in a specific way. Direct your mental energy in cultivating the childlike state of softness and flexibility. Your mind becomes open, curious, and receptive. So it is very important to note, in this case, that the word we use is a childlike state of mind, before the mind has been tainted by all the materialistic concerns. Childlike as opposed to childish. Childish would have more of the connotation of tantrums or not understanding how things will work. Childlike is preserving that sense of openness, sense of wonder, like, wow, this is so cool. Life is so great. We used to feel that all the time, as a newborn. More and more, the world can wear away at those thoughts, making one more cynical. So the goal of Tao cultivation is to regain what's always been there, but that we have forgotten, the childlike state of mind. Then, on the third point, this is about the worldly views. When it's applied to cultivation, it's about worldly views and knowledge. Note the worldly views and knowledge that many adhere to transcend the way they think with the unconventional Tao. So even today, the Tao is still relatively unknown. It's the rare individual who has really delved into it to learn what's been discovered again and again through the centuries, from ancient times until today. So this column, Tao cultivation, this is mostly still sticking with the internal mental landscape. This is how we think, how we change our thinking to be more aligned with the Tao. By changing that, by changing the way we think, we begin to have an effect on the outer world. That is, the real world where we interact with other human beings. Thus, I have an arrow down here from the inward to the outward. In the yin and yang symbol, this is the elements of the other, that within the half, within the complementary duality that is internal, there is an element of the external. So that's what this is. So life application, let's talk about oneness. Hold on to your virtues without straying, even if this puts you at a disadvantage or under pressure to compromise your values. So this is the reason why I told the story about the rescuer last time. Because sometimes we get tested, and sometimes the test is not easy to pass. Then, what about the infant? How would that apply to life applications? It applies in one specific way, and that isn't to be baby-like. It is to manage your energy usage in daily living Approach personal interactions in a relaxed frame of mind without stress or contention. This is applying the relaxation that begins in the meditative state, applies to mental energy, and now applies to personal interactions. It is also about using the soft, the power of the soft. And we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. Lastly, worldly views. There is no need to be bound by worldly views and knowledge, as people often are. Expand your perception to include multiple perspectives. So, to clarify, when I talk about multiple perspectives, I am specifically referring to how when people have sort of a single-minded, single-track focus on materialistic gains, that I would describe as a narrow perspective. When people forget or cast aside all about spiritual concerns or spiritual truths, the great truths that apply to life, then I would say they're losing out on a very valuable perspective. To incorporate that is the beginning of having the multiple perspectives, what the Tao sages talk about when they say you want to practice the secular and the sacred at the same time. That's two perspectives. And there's a whole bunch more in between. So moving on, we're now able to summarize the outward directed practices, the three areas, and also talk about how they map back to the internal. So the three, the number one, and you see this in the Chinese to the left-hand side, it basically says, in loving the people and ruling the nation, can one be without manipulation? And below that, in the heavenly gates closing, opening and closing, can one hold to the feminine principle? And lastly, in understanding clearly all directions, can one be without intellectuality? What we have just covered. So starting from the top, life application. This appears to be advice for the king, but if we apply it to your life and mine, basically, as you tend to your relationships and tasks, you want to focus on yourself and refrain from excessive meddling in other people's business. And then for the gate opening and closing, as you deal with everyday events, consider them in your mind, incorporate the yin principle to balance the yang in your thinking. And then for the four directions, we want to seek understanding from every angle of an issue, because multiple perspectives tend to bring out the truth. So this is what happens when we use the Tao to deal with the external world. Just like the yin and yang symbol, this external interaction can affect the internal state of Tao cultivation. Therefore, I have an arrow here from outward back to inward in the Tao cultivation. So the first one about the focus. Focus and embrace oneness in your being. Sustained effort on this path is the key to your mastery of the Tao. And then below that, the thinking, the yin principle. The yin or female principle maps directly to the softness symbolized by the infant, crucial not only for the mind, but also the spirit. By now you can see the first one maps to oneness, the second one maps to the infant. And then lastly, clarity on life situations, shed light on distractions. and misleading appearance, thereby washing away the worldly view. So, multiple perspectives mapping to worldly view. And the correspondence, easy to see, is that the first one maps to in holding the soul and embracing oneness, can one be steadfast without strain? And the second one, also easy to see, in concentrating the energy and reaching relaxation, can one be like an infant? And lastly, in cleaning away the worldly view, can one be without imperfections? Now you see the second part, outward directed practice, and you are able to connect them directly to the 3 points of the first part, section 1. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.